What is gamification? Shall we play a game? Please share your favorite game here. My favorite game, Monopoly. What is a game? A game is a system in which players engage in an abstract challenge defined by rules, interactivity, and feedback that results in a quantifiable outcome, often eliciting an emotional reaction. Game elements include system, players, abstract, challenge, rules, interactivity, feedback, quantifiable outcome, emotional reaction. System is the idea that all facets of a game are interrelated and impact each other. For example, actions determine scores, rules limit actions. Players. Persons playing the game can be solo or multiple depending on the game. In education, the player is often called the learner. Abstract. Games tend to incorporate an abstraction of a realistic situation. The abstraction mimics reality in part, but not as an exact replication. For example, in Monopoly, the game actions imitate those of real estate business. Challenge. The element of a game which motivates players to achieve goals and keep playing. Remove the challenge and games become boring. Rules. This element defines the game, how to play, what is fair, what is not fair, and how to win. Interactivity. How players interact with each other, the game system, and content within the game. Feedback on the player's actions. Feedback is typically instant, and the player uses this to make changes in future plays. Quantifiable outcome. This is the element that clearly defines whether a player has won or lost via the score, level, or winning state. The variable separates a game from pure play, which has no defined end or quantifiable outcome. Emotional reaction. The element of a game involving a player attachment to the game's outcome. This emotional reaction can be positive or negative and occur throughout gameplay. Please fill in the blanks. A player gets caught up in playing a game because the instant feedback and constant interaction are related to the challenge of the game, which is defined by the rules, which all work within the system to evoke an emotional reaction and finally result in a quantifiable outcome within an abstract version of a larger system. Think back to your favorite game. Break the game apart by its elements, system, players, abstract, challenges, rules, interactivity, feedback, quantifiable outcome, and your emotional reactions when playing. My favorite game is Monopoly. The system is the board houses all the real estate. The players move on based on the roll of the die. The spaces determine the action of buying or selling, building of monopolies, all of one kind of property. Players, 2 to 6 players. Abstract, the game mimics a business of real estate. Challenge, using the knowledge of money and the chance of casting die. Players are challenged to earn money and monopolies. Rules, one person rolls at a time. Then moves the number of spaces shown on the die. Once the player lands, he/she must determine if the space is available to purchase or pay the rent. If it is a special spot like chance, he/she must do as the spot directs. If the player passes go, he/she earns $200. Interactivity, the player interacts with each other and the board game itself. Feedback is provided in the results of the cast die and position on the board. Quantifiable outcome, the winner is whoever has the most money, cash, and property value after a predetermined time limit or when the others go bankrupt. Emotional reactions. As a child, this game used to bring me so much joy, especially when I would beat my parents and grandparents, which I quite often did. What is gamification? Gamification is the use of game-based mechanics, aesthetics, and game thinking to engage people, motivate action, promote learning, and solve problems. Gamification elements include game-based mechanics, aesthetics, and game thinking. Game-based mechanics are basically just the various game elements, such as the system, players, rules, fantasy, etc. Aesthetics refer to how appealing graphics, user interface, etc. the game is to the players. The greater the appeal, the more likely the player will keep playing. Game thinking. This kind of thinking is what turns everyday experiences into social activities with elements of competition, collaboration, and/or exploration. It is how abstractions provide insight into reality. Ready to take the quiz? In gamification, game-based mechanics are not the same as game elements. Gamification requires game thinking, which transforms everyday experiences like running into a social process. True. The elements of gamification are game-based mechanics, game thinking, and the aesthetics. True. The benefits of gamification: engage people, motivate action, promote learning, and solve problems. Engage people. The primary focus of gamification is to engage people or learners to participate in the game. The traditional engagement levels are awareness, understanding, commitment, and action. Motivate action. Motivation is our drive or call to act. It is what gives meaning to our actions. Game elements like challenge can be very motivating as long as the challenge level is appropriate, not too hard or too easy. Promote learning. Gamification promotes the education of players, learners, because of its ability to increase levels of engagement and motivation. Solve problems. Cooperative games use collaboration to solve problems. Competitive games encourage problem-solving skills by motivating individual players to do their best in order to win. Which benefit of gamification do you feel could potentially have the greatest impact on traditional learning experiences? I believe it would be problem solving. Gamification. Ready, set, go. 6 factors of classroom gamification: spaces, routines, learning goals, fun, roles, and theme. For space, think about your classroom. Are there a variety of learning spaces, and how do they foster collaboration? Routines, think about your classroom routines. How can you include them into the game? Set up a rotation for players. Learning goals. What or how will the players learn the content standards? How will they be assessed? How can the learning goals be flexible for meeting individual students' needs? Fun. Make experiences fun. You are the game master. Give them a quest, like research, which is research. The player could work in collaborative groups or on competitive teams. Roles. The students need to have clearly defined roles within the game. If developmentally ready, give them some control over certain aspects of the game. Allow for as much autonomy as possible. This will increase the students' participation. Theme. Using a theme to help tie everything together will ensure the game makes sense, which is another way to increase player participation. Questions. How can I help you use gamification to transform your students' learning experience? maybe provide examples of current learning applications. I hope you enjoyed the lesson and learned from this presentation. Thank you for your attention and participation.